This Warlock build obliterates everything. Now back at the start of this season, I made an updated Warlock fusion build, but I used empowering rifts for unlimited fusion nades, which was really effective, but in situations where you were restricted with health regen, or you were going into endgame PvE while massively underpowered like a GM, you would just die before you could even place down that rift. So today I've made a quick updated fusion build, but instead we've got a few changes that's going to increase survivability in endgame PvE, which includes running this in Grandmaster Nightfalls. But you're also going to benefit more with those fusion grenades while not using an empowering rift, and instead changing up a few mods, which will mean that you'll be able to throw even more fusion grenades in a shorter space of time. Now there's a few different ways you can use this build with a few different setups, and as we go through that build shortly, I will point those different variants out to suit your playstyle and make endgame PvE become easy mode. There are also a few other benefits to the build, like having faster supers that doesn't rely on having Phoenix Protocol, but we will get to that shortly, so you can start using this build in your preferred activity, whether that's a raid, solo dungeon, or even a GM. So if you do like this one, then a rating is much appreciated, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on those top tier builds, especially with Lightfall right around the corner. And now just quickly before we start, let's first check out today's sponsor. Today we are sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Now hold it there a sec, check your phone, because if you haven't got Raid installed, you're missing out. With over 80 million players already, why not add a +1 to that number and be the world dominator using your own collection of unique champions, which there are over 650 now too. Those enemies aren't going to stand a chance with you here. Now we all like creating builds, right? And with Valentine's Day almost upon us, I wanted to share my top 3 St. Valentine's themed heroes. First up are Corrado and Yumeko. Now these two make a really good pair, with Corrado's A2 hitting over 200k, which is enough to kill most non-boss enemies in the game. And paired with Yumeko, he gets another turn if his A2 kills an enemy, which makes them an insane couple in fights. But next up, I really like Sapphire and Rotos. Rotos gets an additional 15% damage reduction from bosses when Sapphire is on the team, but Sapphire's empowerment also affects Rotos by removing all debuffs during his turn, which makes these two so powerful in fights as well. But last on the list is Romero and Juliana. Now these two are just made for each other. It kind of reminds me of Romeo and Juliet with the names, which is why I really like this couple around Valentine's. Together, they make a great pair, with Romero getting the ability to hit all enemies 3 times, with Juliana on the team. Now if you think Valentine's is cool, well Raid currently has a few amazing things happening. Firstly, they've released a new champion based on the MMA and pro wrestling megastar, Ronda Rousey. And right now, you can get Ronda by simply opening Raid for 7 days between now and February 20th, and then she's all yours. Check the available promo codes for new and all players down in the description. So this is the best time to start playing Raid, and by clicking my link in the description or scanning my QR code here on screen, you'll get unique bonuses worth $30. This includes a free epic champion, Shinoru, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 epic skill tome to help you get started in Raid. All of these rewards will be waiting for you here. Just click my link in the description to get started, and I'll see you in the game. Now firstly, as always, before we start, if you do like these builds and you want to see more like this, then be sure to check out the full playlist of new and updated builds down below, because I do make these builds every season, and with Strand coming soon with Lightfall and changes to Buildcrafting too, these builds are only going to become even more insane. So check that out later if you care. Otherwise, today you're here for a newly updated Warlock fusion build that's going to absolutely dominate in endgame PvE without affecting survivability. So you're going to have pretty much infinite fusion grenades when doing DPS to champs and bosses. You're going to get supers really fast, and on top of this, you should be able to just melt everything before they even get a chance to melt you, because fusion grenades in this game are just broken AF. And if you have 3 Warlocks running this build in GMs, I'm not even kidding, you can just sit in wells constantly and just spam grenades over and over, which is a really good way to deal free DPS without losing heavy ammo. Now just a quick example of how you use this build in any activity. As the standard setup, you'll first become Charge of Light. The easiest way is to just get a grenade kill, spawn a well and pick up that well to become Charge of Light, but you can use Counter Charge this season, so you're freeing up a slot when going into endgame PvE while with a team. But when you Charge of Light, throw in your grenade will give you nearly half of that grenade energy straight back, and with a combination of a few mods, you'll just be able to throw around 3 or 4 fusion grenades in a row without waiting for them to recharge, which not only is good so you can have a healing rift, but those grenade kills are going to give you an insane amount of super energy so you can get your well even quicker. And once you do have that well, just place it down and deal DPS with fusion grenades, while also getting as many kills as possible with the grenades to get that super energy on top. If you play it right and you have a lot of ads and tough ads roaming around, you can get your well back before the current one even goes away. It's honestly crazy guys, you want to run this build in endgame PvE if you're a Warlock, or you're throwing. Now there are two things that really affect this build. The first thing is Starfire Protocol, the exotic. This is what is going to give us infinite fusion grenades, as well as holding a second charge, and empowered weapon damage will recharge those grenades, and then a grenade kill will recharge the rift. Now usually you'd run an empowering rift, right, because you can loop between the weapon damage and the grenade kill to get the rift back, and then over time doing that on a loop, you'll get your super back in around 20 to 30 seconds, using double ashes to assets, which is the best way if you have a lot of ads around all at once, or they're scattered around the place individually. But we're going to be using a healing rift in this build for more survivability. Now the second thing that's important for this build are the mods. Firstly, a way to become Judge Light, like I said, so something like an elemental charge, and a way to get those elemental wells, like elemental ordnance. And then we can use those charge light stacks to our benefit. For this case, we have 3 firepower mods, which are going to give us grenade energy when throwing a grenade. Now if you want to go the safe route, you can run 3 heal thyself mods instead. Same cost, same armor, just swap out the mods, and instead, grenade final blows will give us health. Now I don't tend to have issues with dying much with this build in endgame PvE, but if that's you, then running heal thyself might just be for you. But if you want more grenades and faster supers without relying on an empowering rift, then you want to go with firepower instead. Lastly, with a horde. As a warlock running this build, you really want to run with a horde, because this will deal damage over time to enemies, which will passively get your grenade back when you're standing in a well. So when dealing damage, all you'd be doing is shoot a with a horde shot at the boss, use your heavy weapon for DPS, while also throwing fusion grenades every 2 to 3 seconds at the same time. And because we've got the We Can Clear mod this season, you can even use that mod to debuff enemies. I mean, if you're running this build, you really want to be running with a horde regardless for that damage over time, to quickly get your fusion grenades back when dealing damage inside a well of Radiance. It's by far the best way to deal easy and free DPS as a warlock. Now I am going to go over the setup here real quick, and there will be a dim link down below for you guys too. So for the best end game setup, this is what we got. Firstly, run the Warlock Solar Dawnblade subclass with the Well of Radiance super. You then want a Healing Rift and a Fusion Grenade. Aspects are Touch of Flame and Icarus Dash. For the fragments, we have Ember of Blistering, Ember of Char, Ember of Ashes, and Ember of Eruption. For your stats, you want 100 Resilience and 100 Discipline. Exotic, the Starfire Protocol for infinite fusion grenades. And then for the mods, you're going to want 2 Ashes to Assets in the helmet, an Impact Induction in the arms followed by your champion mods that you need, your damage resist mods in the chest armor, and then in the legs we have our ammo scavenger mod for the heavy weapon, and then in the class you want 2 bomber mods. For the main mods, you want a minimum of 3 firepowers or 3 heal thyselfs. You can run 4 if you want, but you'll have to run the counter charge mod to become charge light when stunning champions. Or you can run an elemental ordnance to spawn solar wells on grenade kills, and an elemental charge to become charge light when picking them up, which is what I prefer since running 4 firepower mods or heal thyself mods are just not really required. Now you can take out the bomber mods too if you need to. That is if you want to slot in things like a We Can Clear. That is fine to do, just make room for the best mods that are going to make the build even stronger. Anyway, that is what I would run with this build, and honestly I've had no problems at all with this build in dungeons, raids and Grandmaster Nightfalls. It is probably the best warlock build in the entire game right now, and definitely worth using if you're going to run solo warlocks for the remainder of this season, the Season of the Seraph. But overall, a good 10 out of 10 for this build, and it's always going to be one of my top tier favourite builds in Destiny 2, and hopefully when Lightfall launches, this build can become even better, and even easier to manage with possibly new mods and subclass fragments yet to come in the future, but do leave your thoughts on this build down below. But guys, that is all for this one. This is the last build to the Season 19 class build playlist. Thank you all so much for tuning in, it's been a great season, and I can't wait to get started with new builds in Lightfall and the next 4 seasons to come this year. But for now guys, have a good one, make sure you check out the full completed playlist down below, and I'll see you guys very soon for our top 3 builds to conclude this season. Peace out guys.